You're about to be hoodwinked, hornswoggled, completely sold if you buy this product. Hi, my name is Freeman Lindy. I'm a certified financial planner, licensed tax advisor, best-selling author of a couple of books. And today we are talking about indexed annuities. They are very popular, especially anytime the market is doing markety things, going down, coming back up, and people want a little more safety. And that's when people love to prey upon this and sell products that promise a lot and deliver a little. And so we want to avoid these things. In my opinion, good financial strategies can beat out financial products 7 days a week and twice on Sundays. Okay. But we need to know why. Because when you are presented a certain type of product, a financial product, sometimes, oftentimes, it sounds really good because they will maximize the pros and downplay the cons. And the balance of how they present it will make it seem like the best thing since sliced bread. But before we commit tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to a product that we can't get our money back out, that we cannot reverse this decision, at least not anytime soon, we should fully understand what we're getting into. So if you are contemplating a index annuity, a fixed index annuity, any of these things, if you have been sold one already, if someone is talking to you about them and you're trying to do some research, welcome, glad you found this video. You're going to want to stick through to the end so you can see exactly how these products work from a balanced perspective, from someone who doesn't sell them. I can use them, and I can use a version that doesn't pay me a huge upfront commission, and so there isn't that conflict of interest, but generally don't, because I just don't think they're that good. And why is that, right? Are there worse things out there? Certainly, you could buy whole life. But there are many better things, and I think most of us, right, we want the best strategies. So today, we're going to cover what are indexed annuities and fixed index annuities, how they work, the pros and the cons, and also then a better way, right? What is a better way? Because if we're just ripping on things, if we're just complaining without offering solutions, we're not helping the world, right? So let's explore what we should be doing instead. So this is Retirement Mentorship. If you're just joining us, we're live every Wednesday, 4 p.m. You can join us live. You can throw questions in the chat, and we will answer them later on in the show. Otherwise, this will always get posted to YouTube afterwards. You can watch it afterwards, and let's jump right in. So index annuities, what are they? Why are they so great and or not so great? And what can we do instead? So as you probably know, many of you may know, you want to invest, right? You've got money, you've got retirement dollars, you've got whatever, and you want to do something with that. And so if we look at kind of a spectrum here, right? So I got a little chart here, and we're going to say this is 0% returns, right? And then we're going to say this is 10% returns up, and how far can we get? And 20% returns, etc. Minus 10, minus 20. Sorry, we're a little bit running off the chart there. There we go. And so these are 0, right? We got our chart coming off that way. What can often happen, right, is that when we do normal investing, you're making some money, so you got some good returns one year, and then the next year it's way down, and then you got good returns and it's way down, and it's got good returns, etc. And people don't like this. And people don't like to see minus 18. They don't like to see minus 22% in their investment accounts. You've worked hard, you've built up all this life savings, it's in your IRAs, your Roth IRAs, your 401ks, and you don't like to see going from $1 million down to 800,000, or from 600,000 down to 500,000, right? You want to maintain what you've built. And so for many people, you think, hey, I've built up all this retirement savings over my lifetime, I don't want to lose it, I want to preserve it. And so what happens is, especially if we've had some market volatilities, people crave, hey, how can I get growth? I don't want you to just be in CDs and bank accounts. I do want this to grow, but how can I do that safely? Can I do that with less risk or no risk? Intro the index annuity. And the index annuity is kind of known for three main pros, right? Market participation, so investment participation. Hey, it tracks, it's an index annuity. It tracks an index, usually like the S&P 500 or one of these other ones, right? But then I also add some downside protection. So, hey, you're going to get market-ish returns, market-like returns of tracking these indexes, but it's going to protect you on the downside. There's only so much you can lose, or maybe you won't lose anything at all. And then no fees. How cool is that, right? Totally free to you, which should be a red flag right there. But let's just take it at face value for now. And so the way that this works then is you might say, okay, so we got an index annuity here. And what happens is there's a bunch of different ranges. So you got small ranges, you got tight ranges, you got big ranges. Let's just take one that says, hey, we are going to, uh, you know, we're going to give you a floor. And the lowest you can ever get on this product is 0%. You can just not make money 1 year. And we'll give you up to 5%. And so we're going to track the market, right? And if the market's up, right? So if the market, if we look at years here going out, I don't know, these are not to scale, but you got some years here. So we're going to look at it 1 year at a time, right? And if at the first year the market's up 5%, you're going to get that 5%, right? If the next year the market's up 10% that year, you're going to get 5%. So if it's more or less, if it's equal to or more than 5%, you're going to get 5. If the next year it's down though, 18%, you're not. You're going to get 0% that year, right? So it has a ceiling, a cap of how much it's going to cap you on the way up. If it's ever above 5%, you're going to get capped at that. But if it's ever below 0, you're going to get capped at the 0. And so it's great, right? And so that could be one. Those ones are typically like a fixed indexed annuity, where the range is much smaller, and then you're going to have a smaller upside, but then no losses at all, right? So that can be pretty good. So then you can say, well, hey, you could get 2 or 3% in your CD or whatever else, but this gives you kind of that upper range, and then you never lose money, right? A 0% floor. And then you might have other ones like maybe a broader range in a general annuity, where they might say, hey, we're going to give you between 10 and 0, or 10 and minus 2, or something like that. Again, a bunch of different ranges. But let's just give the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, you can get between 10 and 0. This is a really, really good product, right? And so again, anytime the market is between 0 and 10, you're going to get that market price, right? Whatever it is. So you're going to get those amounts. If it's below this, they're going to cap you at 0. So for all these years here where the market's down, you get nothing. For these years where the market's up, there's going to be a few years, right, where the market's high and you're going to get capped at 10. It's high and you're going to get capped at 10. But for the most part, you're going to get any of those 0 to 10% ranges, right? And it's awesome. So you think about it. Think about it, Mr. Client, Mr. Chuck and Diane. You're about to retire. We don't want to put all your money at risk, right? S&P 500 averages 10%. And so, hey, we can get you that 10% when it's doing that. But when it goes down 20, 30, 40%, you will never lose money. The least you can make is 0. Doesn't that sound amazing? So, right, you participate in the market, sort of, market-ish returns. When the market's up, you get a lot of that, and downside protection. And did I mention that it's free, right? Investment participation, downside protection, no fees. Sounds awesome, doesn't it? Okay, so what are the cons for this? Because you ever think, well, that can't be right. Like, how can you get market returns with no risk and no fees? That should be a red flag. I'm glad that it is. So here's the cons. One, the range of results that they're getting you are lower than the range of results you get in real life, right? Think about this. The S&P 500 averages 10%, right? Which means that for every year, right? For every year that the market is at 0, it's also up 20 the next year. Every time the market hits minus 10, it's up 30. You need a 30 to average out a minus 10 to keep that 10% average, right? And so if this is the average, your range is here. But when they say, hey, we're going to get you 10 to 0, they're saying that your average is 5. That makes sense? So like literally they're pulling down your averages. In other words, they're going to cap you way more than they're going to floor you. Right? You are going to get capped on the upside way more often than they are going to protect you on the downside. About 3 to 4 times as often, actually. Right? Because most of the time the market's up, and when it's up more than 10%. And then the few times, 1 in 4 years on average, 1 in 5 years on average, that it's down, it's down 10, 20, 30%. But then it's up 20, it's up 27, it's up 24, it's up 30, it's up all these other numbers, where then you're getting capped on all of those. You're getting 10% on those, and you're getting 0% on the down years, yes, but you're getting capped way more often than you're getting the downside. So the range, if you look at all these things, the average range, if you take the average of the range that they're giving you, that average is way less than the market. which means that you're not getting market rates. They say, yeah, you participate in the market, sort of, right? They'll use all these weird words because they're not allowed to say that you're investing because you're not. It tracks an index, but then it has these floors and ceilings. So that's one side. Your range of results, way different. Then, even if they are giving you a better range, then they have things called participation rates. So honestly, most of the ones that'll give you this, like 0 to 5, they'll give you 100% participation. 0 to 10, they're probably giving you a participation rate, which says, yep, we'll give this, but hey, if the market's up, yes, you can, it will track the index, but it'll give you a participation rate of 40% or 60% or whatever. So if the market is up 20%, you only get 40% of that 20%, aka 5%. Right? And so part of the way that, yes, we'll cap you on the way down, but on the way up, we're only giving you a portion. We're only letting you participate in some of that growth. So you participate in market growth, just not 100% participation. Now, isn't that something? And so again, if you look at these, the actual returns that you get are always way less than what the market's actually doing, because A, they cap you way more than they floor you. And then and then in some things, again, sometimes you get 100% participation, but other times they're literally only giving you a percentage of what the market's doing, right? And again, this is where it's funny because like they'll say, hey, these are 0 fees, right? And so it seems great, but again, you kind of get what you pay for. And so it's not what you're paying is not in fees, but in lost performance, right? If you are averaging 5 instead of 10, you may have fee free, but you are paying 5% a year in lost performance. So it is more expensive from an opportunity cost and real results cost than just plain old investing, right? And so that's what we never want to mistake the goal for the tactic, right? We never want to say, hey, the goal of investing is not to pay any fees. That's not the goal, right? If we can get the same results for less fees, or get the same tactics for less fees, and therefore we'll have higher results because a little less fee drag. Awesome. Let's do that. Let's not pay any fees we don't need to. I'm big on, hey, let's not pay for things that we're not getting value from. But the goal is not to pay no fees. And so people will often, they'll look at price tags and they'll say, man, this financial advisor is going to charge me the proverbial 1% over here, but this product is free. That's better, right? No, because you are paying for it and lost performance is way worse. And then the real kicker is a lot of times these payments will have what are called like riders, or say, hey, and we'll guarantee you an income, which is going to suck, but they will guarantee it. Or they'll guarantee extra withdrawals or extra liquidity or whatever else. And these will often they'll be like 0.95%, basically 1%, which means that it's funny because then they'll say, hey, I mean, we floor you at 0, but we're still always going to charge you the 1% fee, which means that really, even in times when you're supposed to not be losing money, you're still losing money. Right. Right. Obviously, you can tack a 1% advisory fee on the market too, and it's going to make you lose less, and it's going to make you gain less when you've got a fee on the top side, right? For sure. But if your overall results are twice as good, I think that's still better. And so before you just run off to the no fee things or the 0% fee, you should make sure that we're saying, hey, we're going after results, not cheapness, right? And then the last thing that I'll say about this that they like to ignore is the surrender period, right? Where you put it in here and then for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, usually 7 years, sometimes 10. I've seen as high as 12, and there used to be ones around for like 20 years, where you put your money in, you try to take your money back from any of these years, and they'll tack on a 10% or a 7% charge. They'll literally just take that out of your account before they send it back to you. And that's because they're paying probably a 7 or a 10% commission to the representative who sold it to you. And they need to get that money back if you bail early, right? And so with all that, it just doesn't make sense. So you protect your money. You don't lose anything. You don't really gain much either, but you don't lose anything. But then you lock it up for 7 to 10 years, where the most you can get often is you can get like a 10% free withdrawal. Right? And so that's the most you can get out per year. So you put 300 grand in one of these things, rep runs off with his $21,000 commission, and the most you can take out of your 300,000 is 30 grand a year, 10%. Right? That's it. And then you got to wait for 7 years, 10 years of getting substandard returns in order to get your money back. And so it's just they're not great. There are worse products out there. But there's better strategies out there too. And we should go for the better strategies instead of just going for the free products, right? So what's the better strategy? And again, we've covered this before, so I'm not going to go deep into it. You can go back and find some of our older videos. I cover it in this book here, which you can get absolutely for free by joining our retirement mentorship community. Links in the description. Just give us your information. We will send this out, including the audiobook, to you absolutely free. You can also get my tax book. So again, we're just here to educate and help people out. If you don't want to engage and you just want to educate, awesome, let's do that. But right, in general, we want to say, hey, the problem, right, is not as we look at, right, even markets going up and down, right, this is not actually a problem unless you sell, right? If the value of your accounts go down and you sell, the only way to turn a temporary decline into a permanent loss is to sell when the values are down, right? So as annoying as this is, as much as we don't like seeing minus 20% on our statements, right, it really is all psychological and only a problem if you sell. If you wait, it comes back, and then often maybe has several years of being positive, and you make a ton of money, and it's awesome. And that's how you get average, right, 8 to 12% annual returns, which are just way better than index annuities, way better than CDs, all these other things. But you have to make sure that you never have to sell. And so the way that we teach it around here and with my clients that I work with locally here in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and remotely around the nation is we say, hey, you want most of your money in a red bucket, in equities, invested in the best business in the world. That account is going to go up and down, but 3 out of 4 years, that value is going to be up. And when in retirement you need money, you are going to sell whenever the value is up out of this account and take that out for income, right? And then we want something else because the accounts are not always up, right? And so, 1 out of 4 years on average, the account value of this account is going to be down. So when that happens, we also want a very stable account, something that we can sell out of at any point and the value is going to be there and we're never selling low. And so we say, hey, when our values are down, right? When we're here, we're going to stop taking money out of this account and we're going to pull it out of our blue bucket, out of our fixed income, and just sell at a stable value and pull that out of there. And then eventually the market will come back and we can sell high here, 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 here. Most of the time we can sell high, make money, right? You buy low, sell high. And so we would stop taking money out of here, go back to taking our income out of our equities, out of our red bucket. Usually after a down period, you have several years of it being up, which means that your accounts are really growing. And then we take that and we refill up that blue bucket so that it's ready for next time. And it's awesome, right? Now, some people have asked, well, can you just use an indexed annuity for the fixed income? Like, does that fit either of these? And it doesn't. And the problem with indexed annuities is that they fit really neither bucket. Again, you're trying to do both and you're accomplishing neither. It doesn't help you with the red bucket because, again, you're going to get capped way more than you're going to get floored. It's going to kill your returns. And so you're not getting 8 to 12% over here. You're getting like 4 to 5, 4 to 6 maybe. And so it's not good enough from the growth side to be a red bucket. It's also not good enough from the blue bucket. You're like, well, why not? I mean, if it's capping you at 0, but if it's giving you a 0% floor, yeah, you never lose money. Isn't that a great place to be able to pull money from? The problem is again, with that, you can only get 10% out per year. And the way we look at it is we say, hey, rather than a percentage in each, we do years of withdrawal, right? How long might this account value be down where we don't want to pull anything out of that? Let's protect it with this. Right. And that's, again, I've covered this elsewhere. I cover it more in the book. Don't go out and change your investments based on this. This is not investment advice, blah, blah, blah. There's a disclosure somewhere. But 2 to 5 years of withdrawals in your blue bucket. Because then even if we go through, a 2022 to 2023, where the S&P 500 took 2 years and 1 week to get back to even, or we go through a great financial crisis, 2008, where it took about 5 years to come back. Either way, you have enough in your safety bucket, in your blue bucket, to never have to sell low, right? Which is awesome. The problem is, and so 2 to 5 years, what that ends up being, you can always reverse engineer percentages. We don't base it off that, but you can reverse engineer it, is you're usually like 70 to 85%. Let me do that let's do that in here. You're like 75 to 85% equities, which means you're like 15 to 25% fixed income, which is obviously way less than the proverbial 40% of the 60-40 portfolio or 50-50, which means that you have more in equities, more growing, you get more growth, which means you can have more retirement income, do more fun things, give more to your churches and charities, more of everything. And you just need a good protection for the downside, right? And index annuities can't do that because they only let you get 10% out per year, right? Again, we probably in general want to be pulling around 5%. That's our target portfolio income. And so you say, okay, perfect. Well, 10% is more than that, except for it's 10% of this account. And 10% of this account, which is maybe only 20% of your total account, means you can only get 2%, right? If you have 20% of your money in here out of 100 total, and you can only take 10% out of there, you can really only pull out 2% per year out of that account of your total portfolio. Does that make sense? So if we're trying to pull 5% and then the market's down and we need to pull all 5% from our fixed income, well, if an index annuity is not going to allow us to do that because we can't pull that much out without paying a penalty. Right? And if you paid a penalty, then it takes a terrible return and makes it even worse. So there's no point in doing that. And so again, you're going to have way worse returns with index annuities. They're not that much protection. You lock up your money for years. If you change your mind, too bad, you're stuck. And again, they're very popular because people who sell them, they make huge commissions. And I'm not opposed to commissions. I paid my realtor a commission to sell my house, and he did a great job, and he earned every penny because he got way more for it than I would have gotten if I had done it myself. And I was not a believer in that at first, and I finally did it, and it was perfect, right? And so I want him to be paid a commission because he works for me, and I want him to be incentivized to do better and do a better job and make me more money, which makes him more money. Great. So I don't have a problem with commissions per se. It's what commissions incentivize people to sell. That's the problem. And one of the things that it incentivizes them to sell is index annuities, which are they're just blah. They're just meh. It's a meh. Again, there's worse things. You could do worse. But I don't think that the goal is to avoid the worst things. I think the goal is to do the best things. And so we want good strategy, great strategy, not mediocre products. And that's how we want to build our financial plan. So if any of this, if you're like, man, this is interesting, I don't know if I quite get it right. We've explained this more. I don't want to keep doing the same episode over and over again. So I have explained this more in other episodes. You can go back on our channel and watch some of those. You can read my book if you want the full story, or listen to it again totally for free, or go buy it on Amazon if you don't want to give us your info. We're here for you. And if you want to really look at yours, if you have an index annuity or you are being sold one right now or pitched one, and you want an independent fiduciary person to look at it and explain why this is or may or may not be good for you without the commission incentive, I would love to meet with you, right? I think we have a link somewhere in the bottom where you can schedule a discovery meeting with me. It's totally free. We don't charge for the first or second meeting, so we want to make sure, can we help you? And if so, what can we do for you, and how much would it cost for you to do that? And if the benefit is worth some multiple of the fee, then it makes sense to do it. And if it's not, then we just don't. We part ways as friends, right? And hopefully you keep learning from the channel. So if you have any of this stuff, or you've been pitched this stuff, would love to see, hey, what does it look like in your situation? And if you're new to the channel, just subscribe. We're here every Wednesday, and we'll keep doing stuff like this. We're here for people getting close to retirement, right inside of retirement, helping them retire successfully and stay successfully retired. And having your money locked up with terrible returns is not a great way to stay successfully retired. So hopefully that makes sense. One of the other segments that we do then on the show, we do questions. We're not going to have time today because we're already running out of time. It's tax day. Happy tax day to all who celebrate. But we do a sketch of the week, a stay the course sketch, as we call it. Every week I send out one of these with a little memo. So just an ad-free email that just helps people do the right things, stay the course. Sometimes it's harder to keep doing the right things than to start. And so that's what that's for. And so we're repurposing some of those each week in our YouTube channel. So here's one of the sketches that we sent, right? Anything that reduces temporary volatility must also reduce permanent return, right? Your volatility comes down, so does your return, which I think is perfect for the index annuity conversation that we just had, because that is what people are trying to do, right? Hey, I don't like the negatives. And it's funny because, like, we have a problem with volatility, right? We're like, oh, I don't know if I like the volatility. But what we really mean is the negative volatility, right? Because volatility is, right? Volatility is ups and downs. That's what makes it volatile. If it's just down, that's not volatility. That's just losing money. And so volatility is the ups and downs. But the only part we have a problem with is the downside of this, right? We love the upside of volatility. The downside we don't like. And so there's a whole industry out there of how do we compress volatility? How do we reduce that? As if the goal in retirement is to have the least amount of volatility. That's not the goal, right? The goal is to grow your money so you can do things, maximize your life and your impact and all these other great things. Is not to reduce volatility. And so we want to have good systems, a good plan, a good strategy for not reducing volatility, but living with it and being successful because of it and in spite of it, right? We want this volatility, and the only way to get that is to endure this part of volatility. And every time we're trying to compress, let's pull this up, let's cap this, means we're also capping this. And that's what an index annuity is, right? And so if anyone is pitching you on, hey, do this, it will reduce volatility. Okay, volatility is temporary, right? Temporary volatility. It's always temporary, right? The whole stuff so far that we've been dealing with around, it's like kind of gone. I mean, maybe it'll come back. It sure could. But, COVID is already gone. 2022 is already gone. It's temporary, right? So if you hear someone saying, do this, it'll reduce your volatility, then I want you to automatically think, okay, it's going to reduce my temporary volatility, and it's also going to reduce my permanent return, right? And so our strategies are always based on how do we get you permanent results, not reduce temporary problems. Got to manage them. Got to have a plan for them. Can't just go into retirement either with 100% equities, and nor do we want to go into it with 50% fixed income or a bunch of annuities or a bunch of problems, right? So a good strategy can help you deal with all those. So if you have questions from this, we'd love to answer them next time. We're out of time for today, but you can email those to us at questions@retirementorship.com or throw them in the chat. Or comment on this video later. We'll go back through and comb through and find questions in the comments, and we'll throw them in to the next show. Otherwise, I hope this has been helpful for you. Feel free to use the links down below if you want to schedule some time with us or have us send you some awesome free content. And in the meantime, we'll see you next time. Stay the course.